If you've been following entertainment news today, you knew this video was coming. And yeah, we're going to get to it. But first, the first piece of news is something that makes some sense. So Batwoman, Ruby Rose steps away from the role. And whether it's schedule or whatever, we will obviously hear things over time. But the Batwoman series, and I've said in previous videos, wasn't clicking for me, so that's fine. And now they're saying rather than recasting the role, it'll be a brand new role. Good, because part of the problem was the character too. Let's do an origin story. Let's do an origin story of a brand new character taking up the mantle and make it somebody that's interesting and make it an interesting character. Now, how that goes into casting and what kind of changes you might make to the character, that really opens things up, and I'm hoping CW does well. CW, when they do a superhero right, it's called Legends of Tomorrow, and it's fantastic. And if you haven't watched Legends of Tomorrow, I will recommend it. Get through season 1. Season 1's kind of a bit of a slog, but they learn from their mistakes early, and by the time you hit season 2 and then beyond that, it is a really, really good show. So, and honestly, just fantastic show. I'm a little bit disturbed by some of the hookups that might be taking place, but you know, that's okay. I'll accept it. I may not like it 100%, but I'll accept it. Zari's supposed to be with Nate. Anyways, watched all season for anyway. Whole other thing. In more interesting news, maybe the news of the day. I almost put this on the hockey channel. I was so excited when I saw this. We've been looking for something that's not everything's on fire, everything's just terrible for a while now. And Carole Baskin has been awarded the Tiger King Park that was the centerpiece of most of that miniseries. She, of course, has been in a lawsuit with Joe Exotic, and Joe has said in the series, he said, I ain't got nothing. I'm broke. I got nothing. She can sue me for all she wants. Hee-haw. I got nothing. And now, yes, Joe, you're in prison and you've got nothing. The park that he had kind of stolen out from under him by Jeff, I guess Jeff doesn't own that now either. Does he not have... there are so many questions I have about that series that were not answered by this reunion show and by whatever that was. Can we have a Carole Baskin series where she moves in and hear from a crew that maybe doesn't have, I don't know, there was kind of a bent to the entire series. It was kind of not pro Joe, because it's hard to make it in favor of Joe, but clearly anti-Carole. Can we have like another documentary crew, do like a season 2 for Netflix? Or do a season 1 of the Carole Baskin show. I think we could have quite the, you know, and you could have episodes where they go talk to Joe in prison. I'm sure it'd be really, really interesting. And yeah, I mean, this is where we're at. And not only that, you can have a socially distant show. You have Carole all by herself with her hubby and some tigers, and you can have Joe in prison all by himself, and it just sort of writes itself. You just point and shoot. I really hope that when she goes into that park, whatever she documents, she gets on tape. Because we know there's stuff going on in that park they didn't show. We know there's stuff in that park that's probably not going to make the public feel good about things. And it's stuff that I think needs to be documented. Because one thing that kind of gets glossed over with that series is that there is a market for tigers underground. There is this market for people to own the exotic pets. And how these pets are bred, how they are sold. This whole market really there needs to be some sort of an objective documentary saying here's what the reality is of the conditions these cats are in, how they're bred, and the status of some of these cats as well. Where if you see a snow tiger, probably inbred, and if you know some of these tigers are badly inbred, and that leads to all other kinds of health conditions. So that's something I think you could do a really good show on. I mean, Tiger King, as fun as the show is, and it's fun. It's more of a popcorn show. It doesn't get into the seriousness of it. I'd like to see something with Carole Baskin that takes it a little more seriously, a little less sensationalistic, and tells us, okay, here's what's going on. And then we can get into the topic of what happened to her husband some other time. again, ever since I watched that, I've done research as much as I can on it, and I'm not in a position to make any kind of decisions. But hey, we'll see what happens. Now, here's the news of the day, which is box office profits will be down by more than 50% this year. Well, yeah. When people don't go to the theater, you're not going to have a box office. So, much like how they had a poll about whether or not Canadians care where the hockey games are played this summer, which was, why does that exist? This news is kind of in that situation too. Like, obviously, you're going to see massive drops in profits, which is going to affect movies going forward. It's gonna mean that other movie projects get pushed down the road, including some amazing Marvel and potentially DC movies as well. I say potentially because with DC, you just never know. DC, you can have a great one, and then you can have just 6 feet of crap. And then you can have another really good one, and then you have another one that's just trash. And sometimes we don't even argue over which ones are which. But I do have The Emancipation of Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. I do have it, and I intend to watch that either today or tomorrow. We'll see. Our schedule's kind of... Nah. Anyways, moving on to some sports news before I'll come back to finish this out. NBA is looking at a 22-team return, and their angle is for July 1st, or July 31st. Good idea. If they can get games played before the NHL, they get in there first. And October 12th would be the latest date for a finals game. Now, one thing I've learned watching The Last Dance is that, yes, we sometimes underrate just how physical basketball can be. Where, a guy will break a toe or a nail and you'll think, oh, he shouldn't be out of the game. But basketball players are tougher than I think I've given them credit for over the years, and definitely that series has kind of made me realize that again. Although I used to know that back in the Detroit Pistons days, I hated the Pistons. I couldn't stand Isaiah Thomas, couldn't stand the Pistons. Bill Laimbeer, I thought they were dirty. I thought the way they played the game was just awful. And yeah, that was. I remember, watching that series just kind of reminded me of that. How much I really disliked them, and I was really glad when the Bulls came up and knocked them off. Because the way they played the game, they would just bring it down into the muck. So it is easy to forget. It's a very physical game. And if they're going to get a 22-team return with October 12th as the end date, they're going to start July 31st. That's going to be some pretty brutal scheduling there. So hopefully they figured it out. Apparently they're working with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on having that in Orlando and how they're going to work it out. Hopefully they get that worked out. Now, on not worked out, MLS players boycotted practice today. They boycotted it yesterday as well. They have a CBA they haven't ratified yet. So the players are not happy with ownership, and ownership's probably not happy. And here's where, for MLS, you've got a league that has grown very, very quickly, and it's grown pretty darn big. And now you get into the growing pains part of it. This is where the rubber meets the road. Where for a league that makes a decent amount of money, players want to be compensated, and so for owners, especially in this current environment, they might be trying to lowball everybody. So, facing a potential lockout, players have beaten them to the punch by boycotting practice. They didn't go to practice in Vancouver, Montreal, or Toronto today, as 3 examples right there. So, we'll see what happens. With that CBA not ratified, they might have wanted to ratify that before players got out on the field. And for MLS, honestly, to me, it's not a league that can afford to start losing seasons. So, we've talked about how Major League Baseball, if they lose a season, it's whatever. But you don't get the feeling that MLS is a league that can really stand to lose seasons, especially with all the expansion going on. And franchises that are not making a lot of money. Now, Major League Baseball is not on the board because nothing new came out today. I didn't see any kind of counter proposal. I know owners are working on it, but the fact that it didn't come out immediately tells you they may not be in such a rush. Now, something else I was reading today, where Kelly and Pablo from Ash vs. Evil Dead, those are the character names, not the names of the actual actors and actresses. That's what I think of them as, Kelly and Pablo. They were interviewed about whether or not there'd be a season 4, and they were talking about how, you see shows get resurrected all the time, and if we do a season 4, odds are Bruce would probably be willing to come back. Bruce would totally come back. But Bruce Campbell's been tied to direct a new Evil Dead movie, which they're writing which won't have anything to do with the 2013 movie, which had Jane Levy in it, was fantastic. It's going to get too convoluted, isn't it? Because if you do a new Evil Dead and it doesn't have Ash in it and it doesn't have Mia in it, then it's going to be a brand new story with the Book of the Dead and with the demon things and all that. I'm not sure how you do this without making it just a completely convoluted story. I'm still disappointed there was an Evil Dead 2. The last time they asked Sam Raimi about whether or not there would be a sequel to the Fede Alvarez made Evil Dead from 2013, he said yes. If Fede wants to make it, and if he is on to direct it, then yes, he can do a sequel. It's one of those weird things where Fede Alvarez seemed to be willing to do that, but something fell apart along the way, and maybe it was the studio got cold feet or whatever it was. But Evil Dead is one of those franchises that people really truly love. I love Evil Dead. I think it's great. The original movie scared the living bejeepers out of me when I was a kid. I had nightmares for years that are related to images I saw in that movie. And not to the movie itself. The images would be disturbing enough to my brain that they would get buried and they'd come out in a nightmare. Especially the cellar. Anything involving his sister in the cellar, that was the stuff that just, for me as a kid, because I was 13 when I watched that. So I mean, young teenager, you're at that age where you're like, yeah, I'm not really scared. While you're thinking to yourself, I probably shouldn't be watching this. But it's a series that I've really enjoyed. Evil Dead 2 was fantastic. Of course, Army of Darkness is great. The Ash vs. Evil Dead series is fantastic. And the 2013, whether you want to call it a reboot, whether you want to call it a continuation, a new story with the Necronomicon, whatever you want to call it, I really like that movie. I think it really knocked it right out of the park. Brutal, yes. Violent and gory, absolutely. But really well made, that is true of it as well. And I liked all the characters. I thought it was well done, and it did keep me guessing until the end. The way that it ended, I was really surprised. So that says a lot when you've watched horror movies for 20 plus years, and you're still really surprised by the end of one. I don't think it's coming back, but yeah, we do kind of miss it. And I will say this too: by the end of season 3 of Ash vs. Evil Dead, it kind of felt like it was rehashing some of the same storylines. Like, how many times can you have an evil Bruce Campbell fighting a good Bruce Campbell? How many times can you have that square off before it starts to get really repetitive? I think it ended exactly at the right time. And I think the way that last scene in season 3 was played out, I think was great. But, right? And then today, this is trending on Twitter. Oh my God, this is just... I think Twitter needs to just go for a little bit. So Wendy's is over is a hashtag that's twitting, and it's trending on Twitter. And I say no, because it came out that somebody, a CEO in Wendy's, had donated money for Trump. And you know what? When corporate people are donating money to politics, I don't understand why people... And not only that, this is why I'm saying no. So before people say, I can't believe you're defending... No. The person that donated the money is in some dispute. And not only that, but other owners of Wendy's franchises have come out and said, look, that person may have thrown their money that way, but the way that I run my franchise and the way I run my business and where I put my money is somewhere else. If we're going to start canceling companies because they provide big money to protect their own backsides, you're going to have to cancel all of them. You're going to have to make all your own stuff. You're going to have to grow all your own food. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or facetious. I'm serious. Big corporations, they put their money where they think is in their best interests. So if they look at two choices and they go, okay, this guy might save me a lot of money, this guy's going to cost me a lot of money, well, I'll go with the guy that'll save me some money. And morals and ethics may not get into it. And I understand the moral conundrum, but when I see something like this, part of my brain goes, can we say that there's other companies that we couldn't have? We're just outraged with almost all of them. So I'm perfectly fine with individuals being called out if they're doing something that's ridiculous. But it's for instance, Caitlin Barrett on YouTube, she's started trying to copyright strike people that use her material. in reaction videos, even though Caitlin herself makes reaction videos to other people's videos. Thankfully, YouTube has started to smarten up when it comes to the copyright strike thing, and they've flat out rejected that. But she's still trying to take down certain channels because they're not agreeing with her on things. It's bizarre. But this is where we're at. This is where we're at, and it's one of those things that I find really, really strange. And I've talked about this before, how the entire idea of you're over, based on something small or something that, and again, it's people wanting to just react. Just react. Don't do your research. Just react. And it's harmful to everybody. This isn't this is harmful to one or another. It's harmful to everybody. So for me with Wendy's, I'm on the fence when it comes to their burgers. They're okay. Their fries are I think BK has the best fries. But one thing Wendy's has is that fantastic soda machine where you can have like 150 different flavors. You can't be truly evil if you're offering that many different flavors of soda, or you have to be pure evil to offer that many flavors of soda. I'll leave that up to you guys. But again, whenever you see something like this, and I may be talking to a lot of people my age, they're saying, well, we don't need to be told. I think most of us understand. I think most people in general understand, but there are those reactionary people that are like, that's it. We got another one. We got to take him down. And I don't agree. So it's not over for me. Because again, the need to cancel is really, really high right now. And of course, this is the day where it's Blackout Tuesday. And I've been just watching Twitter all day and just like, wow, that's interesting. Where again, all these big multi-billion-dollar corporations and sports teams and everybody is just, jumping in. And all I see with this is, so it's groupthink and it's PR. It's a PR hit. It is a PR hit. And, when I see individuals, like friends of mine doing that, I don't think anything of it. I think, well, it's a gesture. It's a gesture. Whether it comes from a good place or just well, I better do this or else. It's a gesture, and I'm fine with that. But in some cases with the big corporations and big companies, all I foresee is somebody going, all right, who's our social media guy? All right, you better put a tweet out tomorrow in relation to this whole Tuesday thing, whatever that is. We got to make sure we cover our asses and make sure that people think that we care about this crap that's going on out there. That's how I see it. So, anyways, hopefully the overly reactionary people, it's never going to change. It's never going to change, is it? All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I promise there won't be an overly reactionary side from me in any videos on either channel. So thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And again, if you're gonna cancel Wendy's, do it over their fries. Do it over them giving you crappy burgers, crappy service. That's fine. But when it comes to corporate donations, be careful, because corporate donations involve a large swath of people with a lot of money, and sometimes they donate to both sides. That's the other part of it too. Sometimes they donate to both sides so they can go, hey, remember how I helped get you elected? Yeah, no, I gave money to the other guy too, but I helped get you elected? Hey, how about that tax break? All right, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.